Hello, everybody. Stephen Miller here, Circle Builders. I have some things on my mind I want to share with you. And because this subject matter is so important, and to keep these podcast videos more easily digestible, I'm going to do this over the course of 3 videos. So it's going to be in 3 parts. I'm going to ask you to stay tuned for the next posting until we get all 3 parts out there. But this subject matter is so important, and we have to talk about it when we're talking about men, and we're talking about men being wired to lead. It's not a choice. You're leading. You might not be leading effectively, or maybe you are leading effectively, but either way, because you're wired inherently, created by God to lead, you're leading. And if you're going to lead effectively, you have to get this, all of us, we have to get this issue here dialed in, and that is this. I don't know if you've noticed, I'm sure you have because it's pretty prevalent. The number of men that do not think for themselves. If you're going to be a leader, you're going to have to learn how to think for yourselves, and you're going to have to learn how to think critically. And right now we have, I'm going to define when I say the powers that be. I'm talking about, when I say the powers that be, I'm talking about a collective of media, institutions of higher learning. I'm talking about the loud, deafening voices and causes that come at us from all sides via social media platforms. I'm talking about conversations everywhere you turn. The powers that be fighting for control of our ability to think. They want to tell us what to think about it, how to think about it, and ultimately they want to tell us what kind of conclusions we need to come to. You've got to be not just a thinker, you've got to be a critical thinker if you're going to effectively lead in this day and time that we're living in. And I know a lot of guys would just take issue with, the suggestion that they may not be thinking critically, because they say, well, no, I think for myself. But here's what happens. When you have all these collective powers, media, entertainment, cultural trends, and what have you, institutions of higher learning, many of which are simply force multipliers for dark spiritual forces. And they're trying to rob you and I of our ability to think. And if we're going to get past that and reclaim that right and that ability, we're going to have to learn how to do it critically. What happens is a guy sits there, and because he has a responsive or reactive thought process to the things that are shown him, we're getting stimuli from all places, we're getting stories and narratives thrown at us, and we have a certain thought about that thing. Some people think that that's critical thinking. That is not. That is reactive thinking to the stimuli thrown at you. And most guys, it can be so inundating, it can be so consuming that we never have a chance to think outside of the context that we're being sucked into in terms of issues and perspectives and so forth. That's not critical thinking. The definition in its raw form of critical thinking, I'll just read it to you. It's the process of analyzing, evaluating, and making judgments about information to form a sound conclusion. It involves questioning, interpreting, and synthesizing information from a variety of sources, such as observation, experience, and communication, usually beyond what the average person does. And just because experientially, as things evolve in time, there's got to be adaptations or modifications to some things at their raw root meaning. This is great, and I'm not going to change that, but I want to add one thing to that. When we're talking about critical thinking, we're talking about you and I being able to decide deliberately and intentionally what we're going to allow ourselves to think about. I don't have an unlimited capacity. And so the time, the effort, and the energy that I allow my mind to focus on, I want to be in control of what that is. I don't want people telling me what to think or how to think about it and trying to manipulate the kind of conclusions I should come to. And so in part 2 or 3, I'm going to talk about a model for critical thinking, because we've got to learn as thinkers, as leaders who think for ourselves, we have to learn how to think critically and to think deliberately and intentionally and be in control of that. There's reasons why sometimes people avoid critical thinking, and that's, when they sit down separate from activity, the TV's off, and there's nobody screaming things into their ear and what have you, and they can just sit there, whatever, on their back porch, the front porch, and allow themselves to think. The reason why a lot of people don't spend time there is because the trauma that surfaces is too painful. It's too uncomfortable. Whenever their mind is free from all the external stuff, and it's just a man and his thoughts, sometimes those thoughts are the voices of undealt with trauma and issues in our lives that are too painful to let those things surface. And so we prefer to kind of go numb on all of that and jump back into the fray of all the narratives around us, and then we kind of react to all of that. That's not critical thinking. Some guys don't think critically because they've never found it to be that beneficial. Well, that just means that they've not engaged in critical thinking, because you'll know when you take the time to be a critical thinker, you'll know the benefits of doing so. And some guys, they don't know the difference. I said it just a moment ago, between critical thinking and then simply being a sheep. By that, I mean just reacting, having a thought process that reacts to narratives, to influence, to the voices, to the powers that be that are fighting control of our ability to think. Just having a reaction to that doesn't make you a critical thinker. And some guys don't know the difference. So when they are having a thought process reaction, they think they're thinking critically. Not always the case. And then here's another one, is they haven't created a framework for intentional, strategic, and productive thought processes. It doesn't just happen. And if you're going to be deliberate and intentional, it helps to do that within the context of a system or a model that is conducive to you exercising the power that you have to be a critical thinker about the matters and the values of life that are important to you. And so when it comes to leading, you got to be a thinker. When it comes to thinking, you have to be in control of that. You have to decide what it is that you're going to think about, when you're going to think about it, what you're going to think about it, and you have to be in control of the conclusions that you're going to come to. That's all I'm going to share today, just because I want to get that frustration off my chest here in part 1. And I just want to tell you, listen, at some point, you have to be able to recognize that the powers that be, again, they are coming after you. As a man, they're coming after you. They don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to think critically. They want you to think what they tell you to think, because they want you then to come up with the conclusions that they want you to come up with. That's not leadership. That's just reacting to things in life, and we can all do better than that. So that's what I have to say tonight. Stay tuned. There's going to be part 2 coming very quickly, and I'm sure you're going to like that. I hope you will. Listen, like this video. It helps. It really does. If you leave a comment, tell us what you think. Subscribe, share it. Help us grow this channel, not just for the sake of growing the channel, but help us grow this channel so that we can get the message of restoring moral masculinity out to the masses. The men of this country and really the men of this world desperately need it. We're the solution. We're the solution to the chaos that's going on. We're the solution to this ever digressing and deteriorating world. We, men, we're the solution to it. But we have to make some adjustments. And one of those is we got to learn how to think for ourselves and think critically. So thanks for watching this video. Stay tuned for part 2. Thank you.